Kevin is our general manager in product strategy, essentially over the full product portfolio, which he'll address in just a few minutes. And his boss's boss, our executive vice president, Tim Mahoney. Tim is our CMO and as well as our chief product officer. So he's the guy you probably want to hear from today. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it on to Tim. Yeah, you have to jump over some chairs.
Thanks, Scott. I'd actually like to add my welcome here this morning. I'm going to give you a quick business update in terms of what's going on at VW. And I think that will answer it. You know, the brand's really based on four objectives. This is the one that gets reported all the time, this bottom diamond, that VW would like to be the largest car brand in the world. What often gets lost in the ink is these other objectives, which is we want to do it profitably with a group tax profit of above 8% margin. Most importantly, be a leader in not only customer satisfaction, but in quality. And from an employee perspective, be a top employee. So it's a balanced perspective of where the company's going, but as I said, quite often what's reported in the press is our volume goals and volume targets. So it's that sort of balance here. We're in many ways writing a new vision, new chapter in the VW story. You think about a brand that's been around over 50 years. I view myself very much as a steward, like telling the next chapter, if you will, in that journey. As we look at the market overall, and if we index everything back to 100, where 2007 was a relatively normal year before things started to fall apart in late 2008, what we're starting to see at the world market level is the recession we're starting to come out of. That's not exactly true. I was in Europe last week. As you move into southern Europe, the conditions are pretty tough if you travel through Spain and Italy, Greece, all of that, even France to a certain extent. But markets like the States are starting to recover. Certainly China is on fire and other markets are growing for the brand. In the States, we see a gradual economic recovery here in the States. Job growth is starting to improve. The housing market is slowly recovering, consumer confidence is there. Generally speaking, as we look to this year, we're still holding around a 13.7 million unit market in terms of what we think the year might be. However, we're off to an incredibly good start with the first couple of months of the year, and we're having actually a pretty good month here in the month of March, which I'll share with you in just a second. Last year was a pretty phenomenal year. That was on the back of a 20% increase from 2009 to 2010. So last year we went up 26%. The brand almost reached 325,000 units in 2011. So far this year we're up over 40%. So real solid growth, real solid and sustainable growth for the brand. However, in spite of all that growth, when you compare VW and if you travel in other markets around the world, we're still a relatively small player with a 2.5% share here in the US. You go to Western Europe, virtually 1 out of every 10 cars is a VW Group vehicle. And then China, I haven't been, but I hear it's quite a strong market for the brand, and I know overall globally it's about 8.4%. So we still have a tremendous amount of work to do here in the United States. The foundations, though, I think are pretty much there. We've built a plan that takes us out through 2018. It rests on these pillars, on getting the right products for the U.S. market, getting the price properly, positioned properly, developing the brand to the point where it can sustain that level of volume, addressing any sort of lingering quality perceptions, focusing on the customer. I was over actually in Germany last week where we took 20 prospective dealers over to see kind of the future of VW. So dealer network plays an important role in that, as does sort of the interaction of used car and commercial sales. And of course the structure's new. There's a new structure in place. John Browning, who couldn't be here today, is our president and CEO of the group and has brought essentially an entirely new team in. Reiner is, as Scott said, I'm Kevin's boss's boss. The guy in between is Reiner Michel. He's in Germany this week on some product discussions. Scott is a good friend and colleague on the communication side, and we're really focused on the demand side of through product and marketing, really building demand for VW products here in the States. On the quality and customer experience side, we've got Frank Trivieri, who joined the organization a few months ago. Frank is focusing on dealer network and upgrading the dealer network. Mark Barnes, who was in the role of sales, has moved into a customer experience role, so there's really like a chief customer officer, if you will, within the organization. And then Mark Trahan, who's been around the VW Audi organization for many years, is really focused on the quality and improving the quality of the brand. We've done a lot of this growth on the back of what we call core models, so Jetta, Passat, Tiguan, and Beetle. And so though the foundations are in place, when you think about the large segments in the U.S. market, we're participating in 3 of the top 4. But yet we also have a sort of a cavalcade, if you will, of product news throughout this year to keep things going forward. Golf R is one. This is my company car. It's so much fun to drive, and you'll have, I think, an opportunity later on to drive that. But Golf R is in the market now. Next up would be CC in the mid-cycle refresh there. Beetle, Diesel, and then later in the year, early next year is Jetta Hybrid. Mentioned briefly the importance of customer